Welcome to the Navit for Revit webinar series. As promised last time, we are going to talk about the Naviate MEP solution today. It's not the first Thursday in April, of course, due to Easter. So I hope all of you had a nice Easter vacation and are ready for some input and news on our Naviate MEP solutions. So today, with me today, I have Ed, the Global Product Manager for the Naviate MEP and Fab solutions, coming from our colleagues over in US, the Marketers team, myself as the Global Product Manager role for Revit in the cloud. That will help you or present Naviate MEP today, and I'm here to answer any questions you will have as well. So high level, we will walk you through what you can use the Naviate MEP solution when it comes to Pipework, Ductwork, Conduit, cable trays, and circuiting production. We will also touch by the 3D modeling when it comes to the pipe, the batch circuiting and annotating, and of course provide you with some helpful tips and tricks in how you can use the Naviate MEP on Revit. Of course, we will record this webinar and it will be available early next week, both on the navit.com page and of course the YouTube channel as well. Feel free to ask any questions during the presentations. We have a QA panel, question pen, and down to the right side, so you can raise your questions. I will be monitoring it and try to put it in if it makes sense during the presentations, but most likely we will keep it in the QA at the end of the presentation. So for new audience, Navit is a product portfolio developed by AEC professionals for the AEC professional business. It's all about Revit project setup, model management, and documentation. And the main focus is to try to save you some time, increase the control over your data in Revit, and optimize workflows that make sense to optimize. And as said, Naviate MEP 2023 is up for the presentations today. So I have Ed with me here that will take us through the demo. So Ed, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Jan Tore. Just to confirm, everyone's able to see Revit right now, correct?
Yes.
All right, then I think we are good to go. So, like Jan Tore mentioned, we are going to go make our way through all the trades and see how Naviate MEP is able to help speed up all that modeling and production workflows that we typically do. So we are going to go ahead and start down here doing a little bit of plumbing modeling. In fact, we're going to find that this is all slope pipe. So I want to go ahead and show this off in some of the worst situations possible to show exactly how easy this can be to use and how quick it can be to get started with it. So two things I want to start you with before we actually get in doing the modeling. The first one being all the commands you're going to see me use across the top can be keyboard shortcutted. I'll go ahead and show off a few of them at a time, but then as soon as we kind of learn where they are, what they do, I will start using keyboard shortcuts to start seeing that speed. Additionally, everything I'm using in this project right now, these are all standard Revit families. This is all Revit out of the box. All these commands are built and maintained to work with the stuff that you've already created in your projects. We're not coming in forcing you to use any specialty families or anything like that. Everything that we work with works with what is already there. So with that, let's get a look at how we start doing modeling with Naviate MEP. I've got the 2D sitting over here to the right for us to go ahead and take a look at as we go. We're going to actually do a majority of our modeling in the 3D view. The big news over here being we can actually see what we model, make sure that we're not creating clashes or doing anything funny like that. And Naviate MEP really allows us to do all this work in 3D. So let's get to it. We're going to start off with one of the fundamental commands. That command is bloom. So in a 3D view, it can be very difficult and annoying to attempt to draw out of something like this and understand the direction it's going. Our command up here, bloom, allows you to click an element and just cause an extension to come straight out. We'll notice that extension is matching everything from the runs previous, system type, pipe type, everything together just sort of sits. So we can immediately link something like bloom with an elbow up to go ahead and just give us something that we can kind of move around. We'll find the hardest part when working inside a 3D view is actually just getting that content to be there in the first place. Once it's there, it's incredibly, incredibly easy to move it around. It all just sort of drags and moves. So what we're going to find as we build through here, there isn't necessarily one single command that will do your entire route for you. But what we do have is many commands that we link together to do something pretty impressive. So we just saw that bloom, we saw that elbow up. We've kind of given ourselves a situation over here. Why don't we continue through this little plumbing route and finish it up? So if we take a look down here, I've got 2 more floor drains that we do need to go ahead and plumb together. So why don't we, let's do that the easy way first. And let's take a look at another Naviate MEP command. So because I do already have a lot of this stuff modeled, I can just sort of copy it and continue using it. Now, I'm going to do something that's generally banned in our own shops here, right? I'm going to copy in 3D and just bring that stuff close. Now that's all I have to do is get close, because we got a really nice command up here, move connect. That's going to go ahead and choose our stationary and then our moving object. And it's going to do that final connection for me. And we'll see that whole thing is fully connected together. You'll also notice it moves the entire item set here all together as a group as it does that stuff. So it's a very, very easy way to make those final connections. Now, if we take a look down here, though, we're running into a new problem. This stuff isn't really lined up to connect. I copied it from over here. None of those slopes are going to line up correctly. What can we do about that? Well, we've got a really nice command up here, align branch. Align branch is designed regardless of slope, non-sloping, pipe, duct, conduit, whatever it may be. It allows us to line those elements up center on center based on their intersection points, only moving them in the critical direction. So it was a very minor nudge we saw here, but we'll see when I go ahead and use that trim extend, we don't actually get any transitions. We just get a perfect connection coming all the way through. So if we've got something to copy, easy enough. We can make more copies of that and move it around. But you might be saying, Ed, that's a little bit cheating here. You don't always have something you can copy and work with. Oftentimes we're doing something brand new. So why don't we treat that third floor drain up here as if it's something brand new? And I am going to real quickly make sure I got room to actually make that connection later. So again, feel free to jump between your 2D and 3D views, right? That's the real goal here. We're not limiting you to one spot. You can do your modeling wherever it makes sense. So jumping down, let's use that bloom command again. If you remember a minute ago, we used that move connect. We're going to take a look at a slightly different version of move connect next. I also want to point out, you may notice the system is a little different. We're going to talk about that more in a minute. I'm actually going to leave it this way for now so we can show off even more commands in the Naviate Revit. So we've done a bloom and that's given us an extension. I have a P-trap that I already placed that came in from my family's browser. For some reason, every P-trap was built sideways. Mine is no different. Here it is. If we want to go ahead and make that connection over here, beyond move connect, we can use this move connect align, which is going to let me choose a stationary and then click the connector I want. And it's going to do that same move connect we saw, but it's going to also do an entire rotation about the element to make sure that it connects straight. Now let's use that same bloom we've been using to get an extension coming out. And now we'll notice nothing's really aimed the right way. Let's introduce another new command. We have a very, very nice rotate fitting command in MEP. And we'll see that right up here. Now rotate fitting allows me to choose as many elements as I want and then rotate about that central point. So if I want to turn these 90 degrees, I can turn these 90 degrees. Now they're aimed the right direction. So we're getting closer, right? Stringing commands together to do something pretty impressive. If we take a look at that element that just bloomed out, you might notice we don't actually have any slope assigned to it yet. We learned right at the beginning that bloom, when we use it, is only able to pick up what came before it. So it's causing extensions, it's maintaining systems, it's maintaining values that came previously. Since there was never any slope assigned, we can't really get a slope now. But there is something we can do to deal with that. If we go ahead and take a look up top, we'll also notice there is this cool align branch plus sitting here as well. So we can use this align branch plus to go ahead and do that lineup, and we'll notice as it lines up, we have now gained a slope as we go. So align branch plus not only lines those up to make sure they can connect, it also inherits the slope as we do so. So as we brought that down, I mentioned there was one other thing I wanted to do here. I wanted to get rid of that system so that we can inherit the correct system later. We've got a really nice delete system button up here that we will use to do that. So pulling the system out of the floor drain gets rid of the system all the way through, and we can go ahead and do that trim extend and inherit that drainage system through the rest of our system. So very, very quick to do that modeling, very, very quick to get it together. We're going to do just a little bit more down here underground, and then we're going to move into some above ground stuff instead. I do just want to show a little bit of this vent modeling and exactly how quick we can make that vent modeling go. So let's do a real quick one down here. If we go through, we have our version of split with gap. It's going to go ahead and cut a hole without placing any couplings. If you click an element, nice little trick that's not Naviate, but Revit generally. If you click an element and you go further down, you can actually tab back just to that first element you selected. It's a really nice way to grab stuff in between each other. We learned earlier that that copy command can absolutely be used with these, and we can do it in 3D, and then we can use the move connects to bring our elements back afterwards. Just make sure you click the correct element. We'll do that move connect again, and we'll see it cause an extension to come through. So move connect, when used on something that's a straight, causes extensions, right? It'll link all these together. Let's jump over here and start linking some of our elbow commands. We saw these early on just to get a little bit of a clean out showing. What if I want to use them on my vents? We can go ahead and elbow those up. Maybe we want to elbow over. You might have hit the wrong direction. Don't worry about it, because we get a really nice move connect, or rather rotate fitting, which I'm going to use afterwards to copy that bit, and we'll use a move connect to bring those pieces together. Now I want these to all run together, so we'll convert that to a T. Let's take a look at another new command. We have a really nice align in 3D. So maybe I want this to be the item we align against. You can choose to align and align. Now we're aligned in 3D. We learned a minute ago that that fitting right here, if we do it against a pipe, we'll actually get that straight to extend. So a move connect over here gets an extension. And then we are just a couple more elbows away from lining up against that main. And that align branch I mentioned works in every orientation, including vertical. And we can go ahead and do that trim extend right there. Now, I don't want to make it seem too easy, or like we can only do stuff with 90s. If you want to go ahead and use a 45, you can absolutely use one of those elbow 45 commands to drop it in, rotate it up 90, and if you missed, no big deal. We can 180 it the other way. And guess what? That same align branch continues to work as long as we are a little bit closer to the connection we want. Now, I think we may notice that if I tried to make that connection, we will absolutely not be able to. So what we're going to do is get these just a little bit closer. And this is where that little mix of 2D and 3D really comes into play. Let's get those down a little bit closer there. And then we're going to go ahead and use that align branch for the final fine tuning and a trim extend for our final connection. So it is very, very quick to link these things together. You can make essentially any shape that you would possibly need to make inside Revit. And you're making something that looks pretty good in 2D as you do so. All right. So that's been a bit of underground modeling. I didn't see any questions pop up here. There's some more stuff we could do, right? Maybe we want to do some more aligned branches, but I think it's about time we want to jump into the ceiling here, see some of the other stuff we can get into. So a big, big reminder as we move into the next bit, everything you've seen me do with pipe, we can do with duct, conduit, cable tray. It does not matter. These tools are all universal. They are not stuck or limited to any one trade. So we're showing it off with that slope pipe just because of how nasty slope pipe can be. But as we move up and take a look at the ceiling, we're going to be working with some duct and some conduit. And I just want you to know that all these commands continue to work the same. All right. So moving into the ceiling. Let's go ahead and kind of circle back to that bloom command. We saw it earlier, it was giving us weird systems when we bloomed out of a fitting, or rather it was giving us the correct system out of a fitting, but a weird system coming out of that floor drain. Now, where might that be coming from? How does it know what it wants to do? Well, a fun little fact for you. There's actually an entire window dedicated to those bloom settings. So we're actually about to find that when I bloom this piece of equipment, it's not just doing one extension for me. It's going to every single open connector on that element and causing an extension to come out of it of a matching system and type that I have chosen, as well as a work set if I want to put them on specific work sets. So this is a really, really quick way to get routing with your new elements, just throwing down that piece of equipment and then immediately starting to route with it. So let's go ahead and see that happen. Maybe we go ahead and use a bloom on that air handler. We'll see we get an extension out of every side. Maybe I just don't need this. I can delete it out. We go to that front view. We can see there's some sanitary down here. Well, why don't I do an elbow down to grab that sanitary? And what I want you to catch me doing here, we don't actually need section views to do this coordination. You can do everything in a 3D view as long as you're locking yourself to those different sides. It's a bit of an unseen benefit of MEP that we don't have to cut a million sections and spend that time searching for the correct one or editing that section to look the right way. We can just sit in this 3D view and do all our coordination as we go. So maybe I want to finish this route up. I can do an elbow over. Maybe we hit the wrong way. We can try a different one, right? Whatever makes the most sense to you. Maybe you want to use rotate fitting. Entirely up to you. I've now got that sitting over here. Let's use an aligned branch to lift these up to the same height. Let's use an elbow up to get that elbow up. And then maybe I want to take care of that little route over here in my 2D view instead, right? Maybe it makes a little bit more sense to do it this way. The idea is you can do it anywhere you want though, right? We are not limited to just the 3D view. We can do all those same commands in the 2D view as well. Quick point in fact there, maybe we want to go to the end of this conduit run and do a whole bunch of drops. We can drop all that conduit down, grab all of those verticals, and make sure that we're locating them directly on top of our panels. Right? It's a very, very quick process to get those things in there and start working with. So 2D, 3D, it doesn't matter to us. If you want to go ahead and do some elbows over in your 2D view, feel free to do some elbows over in your 2D view. If you want to do them in your 3D view, you are just as welcome. Now, if we take a look over here, we may have some clashing that we want to deal with. We can deal with it later. Maybe we want to deal with it now, but I just like to connect some stuff together real quick. So taking a look at those two upper elements here, right? We take a look at these guys. They're kind of far away. They're at an upper height, and that's going to be a really annoying connection to attempt to make. So let's go ahead and take a look at a command that would do that connection for us. We've got a really nifty command up here, route to. And route to allows me to go ahead and select an angle I want to connect with. Maybe 30 degrees sounds good to me. It lets me choose a start point and an end point and make that route. So maybe I want to route from here to here. And we'll see right there it adds the double bend in, linking us up to that new height. Let's do that again in the next one. See the same thing happen. Now it's extra cool. You'll notice these are all at different heights as we go. It does not matter what heights we're dealing with. This is going to go ahead and just figure out what that correct angle is of rotation and make that connection. And if we go look at any of those fittings, we'll see that they are dead on the exact angle that we are looking for them to provide to us. So very, very quick command to go ahead and make those connections. And then another real quick note for you, because you may have noticed and said, hey, that looks pretty terrible. We would never do a connection like that. We would not waste that many bends. I'd agree with you. I would never waste that many bends. For anyone savvy enough to take a look below, we also have a kick 90 command, with kick 90 allowing us to do exactly that, a 90-degree bend to a 30-degree bend. So the first click being a 90, second click being a bend. 90 to a bend, 90 to a bend. Oh, and maybe we find out that 30 degrees doesn't work here, right? We need to try something else. So a really cool little unseen benefit again, we get to try design options. And maybe we need to keep trying those design options until we find something that works, right? If you think about the standard way of doing these workflows, you may need to spend 5-10 minutes trying to figure out exactly what works. And then you kind of just sit with it. Even if it doesn't look so good, but it's connected, you call it a day because you made it work. Now we can go ahead and try out a few different angles, figure out exactly which one gives us the best looking path, and then use that one specifically. In fact, if I wanted to go make these 5 degrees, it'd be very, very quick. We could even just undo 4 times, make all of them 5 degrees. So just like everything else, none of these commands are stuck only in one orientation. I bet you if I look underground, there's probably some underground conduit. So if we take a look down here, maybe some of this stuff's got to link together. Maybe these are going into the panels, and then these are coming out of the panels. Well, I'm going to show you something. Looks pretty fun, pretty quick to do. So that same exact kick 90 I just used, we can also use in the vertical. So maybe I want to try a 15-degree bend on these. We can do that 90, and I personally prefer to bend in the underground, but hey, if you do this someplace else, you can bend wherever you want. But I'm doing that 90 down to a bend, 90 down to a bend, 90 down to a bend, 90 down to a bend. And you may be getting annoyed at my conduit going all the way through that element. Don't forget, we've got a nice split with gap. We can go ahead and just split that conduit at the top and bottom of each of those. So we have 2 separate conduit systems running through these items, not one conduit running all the way through the element. And there we go. So conduit, pipe, easy, right? They're both round. What about some of the square stuff? What can we do with those? Well, we can do all the same things. Maybe I have some cable tray we want to bring up to a new height. Maybe we want to flatten it out afterwards. We can do both of those items over here. Let's make sure we can see it. There we go. We want to go up 45, then down 45, or up 45, then up 45. Either is fine. Come flat after and work with there. What about a clash that we may have sitting over here? Maybe I want to just go above and over that clash. We want to just deal with one of these things real quickly. We've got a real nice command up here, reroute over under, which is actually allowing you to select a cut, an offset and a bend, and I'm actually okay with those. We're going to go over the top. And it's going to go ahead and just provide it. And just like before, if we need to be a little bit further apart, we can go ahead and do that same thing again, just a little bit further apart. And there we go, looking very nice. Now, another cool thing about that, we can actually use that same exact command on that conduit or on that ductwork. I'm actually going to use it on this conduit here, though, because I want to show you we can actually do that over, under, and batch. So I can grab a couple elements at a time, come back to that over, under. We'll do a right cut, a left cut, and maybe this time I want to go under, so we'll give it a negative value. And there we go, fully bent under. A really cool note here, right? I'm going to keep hammering how powerful these 3D views are. If you want to move these things after the fact, you can actually even use the nudge arrow keys on your keyboard to lift these things up. If I wanted them to be an exact height below that duct, you can use your move command to lift it up, use your move command to bring it back down again. And maybe we want to make this 100 below. Incredibly quick to make those changes in a 3D view, all enabled through use of Naviate. All right. And let's do just a couple other quick ones over here, and then we'll move into a new area. If you catch over here, I don't actually have any air terminals on the end of those ducts. Just want to show you a fun, nifty little thing we can do here. Right. So I've got some diffusers that have been kicking around. I'm going to make a copy of both of those and just get them kind of close. So if you remember before, we've got a really nice move connect align. So anytime you're working with rotated portions of the building or you're copying elements around, don't do all those extra steps, rotating or prepping them ahead of time. Let Naviate take care of that for you. As long as you know the design you want, we're going to be able to help you make it. All right. So we've seen quite a bit of this modeling stuff over here. Let's kind of move down and just take a look at a couple more little workflows, maybe a little bit more focused on some ductwork real quick. And then we're going to move into some, purely electrical circuiting and some annotated workflows. So jumping down here, looks like I've got a couple VAVs in the hallway. I've got some stuff kicking around in the room here, but nothing's really ready to connect. So I'm going to go ahead and use that bloom command we used earlier to give myself some extensions. Let's go ahead and drop a couple elbows in here. maybe we want to move one of these things over. So I'm just going to lift this guy. Just use move command to make it extra easy. Move one of these over towards the middle there. Can do a real quick align to get the second one in the same space. And maybe we want to extend these things down just past. Don't forget that little trim extend that I've been using this whole time can always be used to extend an element down. So frequently using just other elements that don't even relate to help extend these things and move them around. Now let's open this up in the 3D view so we can see what's happening. But I'm going to do a lot of this modeling here just in the 2D view so you can see what's going on. So if we want to go to any of those air terminals, we can bloom each of those out. We can go ahead and use the align branch from before to make sure that everything is lined up center on center to allow me to do those connections. And just like I mentioned, if you have keyboard shortcuts, this gets even easier. And what about connecting it together? Well, let's use that trim extend to bring all those elements together afterwards. So 2D or 3D, whatever it is you're doing, it is super, super quick to model and make those connections together. And now I did get incredibly lucky that my boots are all going the same direction. Let's be honest, that never happens. You never get the same direction. We got a real nifty little command up here right inside MEP called flip multiple. And flip multiple is actually going to allow you to take anything with that flip work plane button and just start toggling it around. So while I'm doing that currently on those boots, I'd like you to know it actually came about because of lights. I myself placed about 2,000 lights on the wrong work plane, and I had to spend the next day or two individually flipping those things back and forth. Wouldn't you know, the day that I finished the task, the development team came over and handed me this button, so I can flip everything all at once whenever I need to. And just a quick note, that flip does flip on origin. You will notice real quickly that the origin of these elements is in fact in the corner. So we're seeing it flip across the corner because that's where the flip work plane is built for. Where your origin point in the center, you wouldn't see any flip side to side at all. You'd only see vertical. So one more time on that, we can flip them. And even more fun, we can flip lights, boots, a panel, and a receptacle all in one go if you want to. Like I've been mentioning, these tools are universal and very powerful. Whatever you need them to do, they're going to be able to do it. All right. So we've done a whole bunch of 3D modeling. We didn't get to see everything that's in here, but we saw a really good chunk of stuff. You know, if you got more interest in it, you want to see some more stuff on a specific trade, well, we've got the chat in there. You're welcome to mention, and Jan Tori will be happy to hook you up with a salesperson to get a demo. But in the meantime, I think it's about time we move into the copy circuits workflows and any of that circuiting stuff that we can do. See some of the power we bring over there. So we're not going to get rid of that 3D view, but we're going to make it quite a bit smaller. And just before we jump in to do any circuiting, I think there's a little bit of prep I need to do. If you take a look, we don't really have any tags or anything here yet. It should really be visual what's happening as I do these circuits, right? We want to see what's happening here. So I'm going to demo a command that's inside core. And just for anyone that doesn't know, accelerate is the traditional Naviate suite for that general use stuff, similar to what I'm going to show you here with the tagging. A really cool note, for versions 23 and up, accelerate actually has core merged into it. So while MEP comes with core, if you're an accelerate person, maybe you've seen some of those accelerate webinars, you actually have access to all this core stuff in 2023 accelerate going forward. And eventually, that's all going to roll together. Your MEP is also going to come with that stuff, just not quite there yet. So let's take a look at this tag settings command, an incredibly powerful set of commands, really. Let us do some pretty cool stuff. So what we're actually doing with this tag settings up here, we're able to build out these profiles, and those profiles let us build out, standard layouts for our tags. So I've done a pretty classic layout over here. Our lights. We've always got a tag in the top left, a tag in the bottom right. I have mine boxed just because I feel like it. But hey, you'll notice top left, bottom right. And all I had to do was select the elements I want to tag, and it is dropping those tags in for me, right? Incredibly quick. You'll notice the way this is working right now, I am choosing a row at a time to tag them, right? There are absolutely more batch versions of this available. And just to quickly note, I want you to see, you can create groups of elements. So something we'll see in a few minutes is maybe I would want a electrical group that I could use. And I'm going to hint you that there's a really nifty command called tag all. And we're going to talk about tag all in a few minutes. But maybe I want to very quickly create a group. I'm going to call it elect. And let's just add a couple of these configurations to my group. And now, not only will I be able to leverage that group later, it also makes it easier for me to see just the tags that are relevant to me and the workflows that I'm doing. So we can maintain a nice tag settings file to make sure that our entire company is doing stuff consistently. So I'm going to close out of this for a minute. We're going to do a little bit of circuiting, and we're going to come back to that afterwards. So jumping back to MEP, if we look on the right, we've got 3 little buttons here, and then this is a bit of a sleeper. This copy circuits is going to do some pretty incredible stuff. We'll take a look at that afterwards, but we're going to start with these 3 here. So what we've done, all of those little buttons that you have to click edit circuit to get into, all of this stuff in here, it's too much menu diving. No one wants to menu dive like that. We brought all of that top level. So if I want to just remove something from a circuit, I can just remove it from a circuit. I'm using keyboard shortcuts, by the way, crew. This is all these add, remove, and merge, all keyboard shortcutted. If I want to add something back to this one, we could say circuit add, finish, adds it back to that one. Maybe I want to move that to circuit 1 instead. It's now on circuit 1. Maybe we want to remove it again. We can remove it again. Let's add it back to circuit 2, and then maybe we decide that we want to merge circuit 1 and circuit 2 together. Well, we can run a circuit merge, choose both of them, and we'll find that everything is now on circuit 2. Now, to be clear, I don't want them merged. I do want to deal with 2 different circuits for the time being. So we're going to click cancel and bring it right back to here. So any quick edits, anything you're doing like that, anytime you're really just doing that initial circuiting, really, really nifty to have these around. It speeds up all those little edits, and you don't go cross-eyed looking through menus. Now, let's talk about copy circuits. Copy circuits actually has a couple different functionalities. We're going to talk about both of them. The first one being choosing some elements that have already been circuited. So I've chosen this element from circuit 1. We're going up to MEP, and we're using copy circuits. Copy circuits is going to ask me to choose a location to reference from. So I'm going to choose here. And maybe we're bringing it over a room to the left. We'll use that double reference to place it. And hey, that's pretty cool. If you take a look, it brought over both of those elements within the circuit. So cool, it's copying elements for me. It's maintaining my layouts. To be clear, it's doing a bit more than that though. When you use copy circuits, it's actually copying the elements, maintaining their layout, and adding them as a new circuit on the same exact panel. If we want to go take a look at that panel, we'll see that circuit 1, 2, and 3 sitting right here. And just while we're looking at the panel, fun little note for you, you're going to have to find something new for your interns, because we can uppercase load names across the project with just a button click. So we're not just creating that new one, we're also adding it to the same circuit. So pretty awesome. Anytime you run into something repetitive, this is going to save a whole bunch of time. I use this all the time working in auditoriums where each row is maybe its own circuit, or in office buildings where each office is, again, usually getting its own circuit with a pretty dang typical layout. So that's all fine, but that's just circuits. What about something maybe like an apartment building, or maybe something that has multiple levels in it, maybe something that has a lot of panels in it. Maybe we've got a lot of panels, but not a ton of circuits. Well, it turns out copy circuits works on panels as well. So let's go ahead and use that same command on the panel these are all connected to. So copy circuits on a panel. And I'm doing this in the same floor because I want to prove something to you. I want to prove that it doesn't actually matter if you can host it or not. Does not care if the host is there or not. It is still going to bring, you'll notice, everything with it. Here's all those elements. Let's go back to core. Let's tag them all, because check that out. They are all actually circuited. This is not some text-based magic. We're not doing anything funny. We're not adding weird parameters to do this. We are actually creating an entirely new panel, new elements, and recircuiting those to the new panel in the exact same place that they were before. It is an incredibly, incredibly quick process to go ahead and take something that's typical and bring it around. And in fact, it doesn't even need to be perfectly typical, because you can bring it without hosting and then just move these items to wherever they belong after the fact, right? Very, very quick. Now, you may have caught on and heard me say I'm doing it on this level, and that does mean what you think it means. We can do it on multiple levels, with the real key here being you have to do it within an elevation view. It doesn't work in section, works in elevation, but small price to pay for being able to take a typical floor and bring it level to level. Because what we learned is when we use copy circuits on a panel, it brings every downstream element with it. So if we want to go ahead and imagine the master panel for this floor, and maybe we have a second floor that has the exact same layout, we could come in here and find that panel. And there we are. There's my P1 panel. We can use copy circuits to go from level to level. And it brings the entire panel with all downstream elements, and it has maintained its hosting. We go check out level 2. There it is. It's all there, all hosted, all ready to go. And now I may have mentioned a tag all command that would go really, really well alongside that circuiting we just did, right? Because we brought an entire floor's worth of circuits up to work with. We could then jump to core. Instead of just doing tag settings, what if we jump down to tag all? Where tag all allows me to grab that group of electrical configurations and go ahead and tag as many views as I want with that group of configurations. So maybe I want to go ahead and filter for lights. I can go tag my lighting plans. Maybe I also want to grab some power plans. Go tag some power plans. Whatever it is you need to tag, jump in here, choose those things. Now I'm going to choose this level 2 chord so we can see it show up. And you run an execute. It's going to go through, figure out how many tags are necessary. You'll notice it's actually going through, tagging everything there. And we've placed, a good 600 or 700 tags off of that right there, right? Could you imagine trying to place all those by hand? Even if you have to go back and just do a little bit of tweaking, that is saving you far more time than trying to do any of that tagging, manually. Let's click the finish. All those extra views closed, brings us right back down. And how about that? Everything's ready to go with some nice looking tags because they are tagging the exact same spot that we've already specified for them to be tagged. All right, we have made it through the little bits and pieces I wanted us to all see.
But I also would like to touch by our ideation portal. So if you see that you are lacking or would like to see something improved, if it's a Naviate MEP, Naviate Accelerator, or whatever product we have the ideation portal that you as a user can add your ideas that we are constantly monitoring and discussing every week to make sure that we provide the right tools and features for you in the different applications. So that's the way you can impact the Navit development. So closing up, as we said last time, we are doing a monthly webinar series. There's going to be an extra webinar next month talking about the new Navit rebar release. In addition, then we have the new Navit Accelerate presentation. that consists of both the core functionality that Ed was showing up today, together with the existing accelerate functionality we had from before. So there's I think it's nice with 15 to 20 more additions, improvements, and new features in the new accelerate package that was just released. So 2nd of May for rebar and 4th of May for accelerate, the core base functionality that goes hand in hand with the Navit applications. Being a Navit user is not only having access to the product and use the product. We have the website with all the information. We have blog posts bringing new tips and tricks and deep dive into different functionalities in Navit. We have an extensive help desk. Of course, the Ideation Portal that I mentioned for you, the community. And as a subscriber, you also get access to an extensive library of e-learnings, both for the platform, Revit, but also for Naviate. So you know about that. And if you would like to stay informed, webinars, updated on blog posts and releases, this is how we do it. You register it to receive the newsletter from Naviate. And we will inform you with any news that we will send out to our users. There's no questions, Ed, so I guess we can close out today's webinar. Thank you for an amazing presentation. It was really good, and I would love to dive into Naviate MEP and start trying it out for sure. If you'd like to, sorry.
Well, I was going to say thanks for the platform and thank you everyone for joining.
Yeah, thank you. And if you would like to ask questions to Ed, here's his email address, and this is mine as well. If not, reach out to info@navit.com, and we'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you, Ed, and thank you for attending today, and see you next time. Have a nice afternoon.
Thank you, everybody, and thank you, Jan.
Thank you. Bye-bye.